Welcome back, one and all, to the EMEA Masters. We are not Medic and Broxa, no. We are the full Irish duo of just Oshin and the god-tier man himself, Dagda, going to be bringing me through the weird and wonderful world that is EMEA. We're going to be swapping over the groups, though, but the momentum and the statue of what these games mean still stands.
I am very much looking forward to seeing how Group A all kind of pans out, because at the start of the day we had a bit of a rock, paper, scissors, but it's starting to now separate a little bit, with Istanbul Wildcats being able to take that first slot at the moment, but there is still a lot of scenarios where we end up with those tiebreaker scenarios.
Yeah, we're going to be keeping an eye as we go through and seeing where games go. And it's kind of like a game of chess. You're kind of thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead of everybody else. But we obviously are going to be looking in terms of our, you know, kind of our first game and obviously our where these teams are going to be. It is going to be on, Heretics. Lost Heretics. I lost myself there. I was looking at the side here and I completely lost where I was going to be. But big moment for them. They need to be coming out here strong because the Superliga, they need to try and start, you know, reigniting themselves in this tournament.
So I do agree, but it looks like the guy in the middle, Zwyroo, has bunny ears because of the logo, which has been broken for a little bit. But I definitely agree.
This is my hairband, and I'm cool.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing what this team could do. Honestly, I think it's going to be very much a case of how do we get control over the spot lane in this game, because a lot of the Group A has been how have the AD carries stepped up to be those big team fight carries, and at the moment I really want to keep my eyes on Zwyroo because I think he's been doing a fantastic job in those early stages of, you know, leaning out of Fog of War, getting in towards that bot side and trying to keep control of this game, and seeing then if at least Heretics can lean into those team fights in the later stages.
Yeah, and I think, again, like, you know, there's always, it has been a while since we've kind of had the Superliga dominance, but there is always an expectation for them. And we go from one of the more kind of older teams or older, I suppose, organizations in the tournament to the literal newest coming in here from the Arabic League. You've got Geekay kind of making waves right now, really putting their foot down and showing that they're here to play.
Yeah, first place in the first season of the Middle East and North African League. Excited to see what these guys can do. I think Rin especially has been really, really good in that bot side. And again, I think that's why a huge amount of this is going to be me focusing on that bottom lane to see what they're going to be capable of doing. Because at least in a couple of their games, Rin and Dekap have had some really big explosive performances, especially with Dekap bringing in things like the Pike.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're going to jump straight in. And the funny thing is, like, obviously we looked at Lost Heretics a little bit there as we kind of go through the video. A lot of very big kind of, you know, EMEA Masters kind of names here. I recognize bluerzor from years back, like even from 2018 when the competition was first kind of conceptualized. Ibo, you've got Flakked in there as well. There's a lot of people here where, again, the expectations are high.
Yeah, especially like Satorius as well, who's played in LEC. There's a lot of these players that have been around for a while, and I think that's why it's so exciting to see, especially in Group A, how they will face off against each other, because there is a lot of that veterancy. At the moment, though, we're seeing that it's going to be Viking and bluerzor that are the targets at the moment, with Vi, Wukong, Zhejuan, Maokai all taken off the board. Maybe we fall back onto something like a Lee Sin here with all those gone away, but a huge amount of jungle pressure being popped through at the moment.
I mean, it's exclusively jungle pressure right now. Yeah. We are seeing everything kind of being thrown in against these two guys. And honestly, I kind of see the respect, is it? We've seen it throughout the meta right now that it is very much relying on your jungler to be that first initial vanguard to get that engage going for yourselves.
Yeah, and we'll have to see exactly how they want to try and continue this one forward. Now, maybe you actually look at something like a first pick Gragas, which have been seen a little bit in the EMEA Masters, but not actually going to be the case. We're immediately going to go towards the Varus with the Xayah taken off the board, so probably going to see jungle plus Zeri, I'd imagine, locked in here, going towards winning that bottom side, just with how strong Zeri is at the moment.
See what they want to go for. First priority, though, going to be that Varus there. So again, something that can be very versatile in the meta. You can go with the poke build, with the lethality. You can go on hit as well. Plenty of different things you kind of build with that one there. Now, Geekay, where do they want to try and take this? Because again, with all the jungle bans and priority, I am super, you know, kind of happy to see them kind of give something to Viking that can have a bit of an early game impact.
Yeah, and I think it's a good call. One of the things, obviously, Varus, we've seen a lot more on hit than we've seen poke recently, and when you're looking at the dive potential that can come through, I think the Zeri going to be a big pickup here. Try and play for these big team fights where you're just diving out to the Varus, making life uncomfortable. So we'll have to see how they want to ride it out. Actually going to be the Jinx that they take at that last second, but I still think you're probably setting up for a lot of this team fight and dive potential for Geekay right now.
Yeah, and we'll see what they kind of want to try and bring up to this. But again, like you said, the kind of Jinx filling in that same role of being a big team fighter, getting that DPS out later on in the games. And the Rockets have kind of just been shown to be so damn powerful. bluerzor taking out something that he is exceptionally comfortable on, has been playing this for years. I'll be totally honest, if you're any jungler worth any way of salt, you've got to be playing the Lee Sin. Very comfortable to take that, and a very powerful combination between him and the Lissandra if they can get that 2v2 going for themselves.
Also, just a great pick up to Lissandra early. I think we've already kind of said, hey, look, you're going to be against Dive on the opposite side, so more than likely a hell of a lot of melee champions, or at least close range. So picking up the Lissandra where she gets value in these close team fights, she can get a lot of value from her passive. It's just a great call. So already you can see with the Malphite locked in as well, that's exactly what Geekay are going for. But now I imagine, yeah, we're going to start seeing these champions that can try and dissuade that engage, taken off the board. Already see the Renata gone. Honestly, might see something like a Tam Kench go as well, just to try and give that safety to Flakked, but certainly I think trying to get rid of this disengage is your best bet.
Get rid of the disengage, get rid of, because again, you're looking at everything on top of Geekay right now. It's very much in. Go in, get on top of people, be on top of their face. So getting rid of the Renata, like you said, definitely a much more powerful thing than you can maybe, than others. We'll have to see what they want to try and combo this up with. Los Heretics going towards that Cassiopeia. This is something that's been kind of creeping in as well. We're noticing a lot that the Cassiopeia has kind of been seen as a very big kind of, you know, counter to things like the Lissandra, like the Lee Sin, that kind of rely a lot on their mobility to make those big plays.
Yeah, it's also just very, very good when it comes to late game DPS and trying to slot into a lot of these team fights. I'm actually surprised to see that it is Heretics who are taken away, because I still think you kind of got bigger problems if you're looking towards things like maybe a Silas that can go in towards those mid lanes, or even if you want to just play for a full late game team fighting, Nazir also an option here as well. But yeah, it's going to be Geekay who take the Silas off the board and actually going to go towards the Swain instead. So I'm surprised by this. I know obviously it gives you a lot of tankiness and can kind of dive in very well with a lot of the setup that Geekay has, but it feels like again you're then heavily reliant on, okay, Ring, can you step up to be the carry on this Jinx? Because if you end up with Heretics putting a lot of energy and focus into this bot lane, you're lacking a lot of damage now on Geekay.
I mean, that's the big thing. We were talking a little bit before we came in on, you know, to the broadcast, is that it does feel like this group is the battle of the bot lanes, and Geekay are kind of very heavily shoving everything on top of Rin and saying, you are going to be our carry right now. We'll still wait to see where that Swain goes. Could technically, you know, be a little bit of flex to support. I don't think it will. Technically, you can see the Jarvan as well. There's certainly some little movement there that can happen, but Heretics gonna finish off their composition here with the Gwen in the top side. So them themselves, they are very reliant as well on the kind of single target CC coming in from the Varus on long range, and then using those kind of like, you know, pick off tools with the hooks and such to get those team fights rolling for them.
It also is a lot about shifting their damage portfolio as well, away from the AD style, which is where Malphite would thrive, into a very AP centric composition. Because even when you think about it, Varus has that AP built into his kit as well. Wouldn't even be surprised if he really wants to try and well, obviously lean into the on-hit damage. Maybe he doesn't want to go fully into the Rabadons because it might be a bit too much, but I still think at the moment Heretics in a relatively okay spot. You are just heavily reliant on Zwyroo to be that big engage tool, so I'll be keeping my eyes on that as the Blitzcrank comes in on the opposite side. So not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest fan of the Blitzcrank in this sort of composition, because it's like, hey, I want to play for pick and play for like pull away, when the rest of your composition is very much set up for big team fights and all-in engage. I actually thought we might have seen him go towards something like the Rakan or something in this situation, or even an Alistair I think could work pretty well, even if it's not the best for lane. But we'll have to see now if you can unlock Dekap in a lot of situations to have strong early game focus, try and move around the map with Viking, and see if maybe you can make some of these picks work early with us.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were talking about kind of, you know, the way the teams are kind of go work with it. We'll see how it all kind of pans out once we get onto the rip. But this is a very, very important game right now for Geekay. They do need this win if they want to try and get themselves up to that top 2. It becomes very difficult when you look at the kind of 2 teams that are ahead of you, when you're looking at 4-1 score lines to try and beat up, when you can only really get to a 3-2 or 3-3. So big moment here for the Arabic League representative, and really seeing what they can kind of show up, because I feel like Los Heretics have kind of been slowly building as this group stage has been going on.
Yeah, especially as if you lose this, you're pretty much gone. Like, there's no real hope for you. So for Geekay representing for the first time the North African and Middle Eastern region, it's going to be a big step up to see if they can compete. Obviously, they know that they have had these opportunities where they've been able to beat Heretics in the past. It's a case of if they can try and play once more for those big team fights and see if they can find those early leads.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
They are jumping onto the rift for this best of one. Again, big moment here for Geekay. And as well as that, you know, Satorius, we never really got to kind of talk about him, but is going up against his former org, you know, was on Heretics in 2022. Obviously didn't get to stay there too long. I believe he was there from January to May, so only one split really. So see if he can maybe, you know, it's always that weird thing. You always want to win the breakup. It's always a weird thing if people say, I mean, come on, let's all think of it. We call a spade a spade. You always want to win the breakup, and no better way to definitively win a breakup by winning against your old org.
And it'd be a statement game as well, especially if you could put Heretics onto a tie with you. Maybe be the one that actually pushes us into that 4-2 tiebreaker scenario. But at the moment, we'll have to see what the case is going to be. Geekay spreading out at the moment. Not really too much happening on the map at the moment. I think Zwyroo trying to see if he can make sure there's no real cheeky invade coming through from something like the Blitzcrank, as everything just seems like it's going to be starting topside, moving into the bot lane, where we already talked about hyper focus there for Geekay to make sure Ring gets off to a good start.
Let's see what they kind of go for right now. As you said, just kind of covering here on the top side. And Heretics very happy to let Ibo just kind of have his way in this top lane. And it is going to be the way of the matchup. You know, the Malphite's kind of just a threat onto the back line at some stage, just become kind of a big tank. But Ibo's going to have his pick of pretty much anything in this top lane. And it's going to be tough for the first few levels, you would imagine, for the Malphite. Definitely going to be thinking about how he can just survive this lane, especially now that he's already a level behind with the wave pushing against him.
Yeah, I mean, Ibo should have full control over this, and it's actually interesting to see Ibo kind of falling back towards this, because at least back in my head, even for a long time, you'd see Ibo traditionally going more towards these tanks like Casantis and those played. It's kind of, Jace was kind of the other big carry player that we'd see him bring out quite a bit, but now stepping up to see if he can at least put a little bit of pressure in towards this side lane, and I think he's going to be a very big person to watch out for in team fights as well.
Alrighty, we've seen that 2v2, or 2v1 I should say, in mid lane, and be a little bit careful here as the Swain. Nice, never move, brings him back, and Zwyroo getting a fair bit of chunk. This is the thing with the Swain kind of excels at. He's just very good at just being in your face, annoying, and just kind of constantly harassing you down.
Well, might need to roam over towards this bot side, because already you can see there's an evade coming through with bluerzor. Marlon starting to link up, making sure they can get vision down so they can set up for the Skull of Crab on this bot end. But it might actually open up something for Viking in this mid lane, where maybe you can burn a flash. You can see Root is good.
Oh, they land themselves the Vision of Empire and a first blood. Perfect start for Geekay. And that is exactly what you want to be seeing from this Swain that they got. Again, they picked into the Lissandra.
I mean, absolute fantastic performance there. The fact that you managed to get the root perfectly as the Ice Claw comes out, you know that the Lissandra wants to try and reset, doesn't give him the opportunity to go for it. And now Swain already getting off to a brilliant start. Will pick up that blasting one and can continue to bully mid and potentially lean into any of these early skirmishes now and help out Viking.
And the big thing as well is that Zwyroo lost his flash, so if he gets caught out by a little bit of CC with a Jarvan on the other side, like, that is dangerous territory to be in. Viking to walk straight into a Sonic Wave. It will be followed up by bluerzor, but yeah, he was going to get himself out of danger there. No real trouble whatsoever, but again, not a bad start here for Geekay, and this is where you kind of get a little bit thinking, you know, you're saying about the Blitzcrank, but if you can start picking off these people little by little, hook by hook, and by just getting everything going for themselves right now. Marlon does not have flash, and he has no way out. Rin picks up a kill. This is just a perfect start right now for Geekay.
And especially when we said this, these are both teams that like to try and play for early dragons, like to try and play for team fights. Well, the fact that you've got Geekay now with this great start in mid and in bot is going to lend themselves nicely in towards that win condition. Especially the Jinx getting this early kill is so big in this matchup. Great hook from Dekap, and even though Viking doesn't land the knockup, he's already just getting here to get the damage down and set up for Rin to pick up the kill.
Rin picking that up is so huge as well with a Jinx. Just getting that early Berserker Greaves just makes it so much easier to be able to kind of be safe. As well, you know, Rin did have to blow the flash. There was maybe an opportunity there for Marlon to get something for Lost Heretics, but really solid start right now. And Lost Heretics, they got to start thinking about this, that you can't just let this kind of go by the by. It does feel like, at least for the first 5 minutes, it's Geekay coming in with a very solid plan and really kind of, you know, executing on that very, very well.
The problem for Lost Heretics right now is that you don't really have an opportunity to try and play around bot side because, well, unless Marlon lands a hook, you still have to deal with the cleanse. There's not really any easy way for you to get in post level 6, or sorry, pre-level 6. Zwyroo as well, not having that flash in the mid lane makes it difficult for him to try and set up anything on towards the Swain in the mid lane. Is Dekap now?
Yeah, looking for a hook. Ooh, just brushed his path there. Zwyroo getting his fancy feet on. But again, yeah, look, this is kind of just the way things are. Like you said, it's kind of difficult for Heretics to make much happen in this early game, as they're just kind of waiting on those big level 6s to kind of, you know, as you say, push the ladder a bit more.
I think this is where DK, though, can actually push the envelope a little bit. I was about to say, start up Dragon. Start to get some of these objectives already under your control, especially 2 minutes until Rift Herald, so you can then start to have an easier time as you crest in towards the mid game. You've got level 6 for Swain in the mid lane. He's got push on bot, so this should be a nice early pickup for Viking, and there's not really anywhere that bluerzor can try and make any sort of turnaround play. You can look topside, but, I mean, Satorius is on Malphite, no real CC. He's going to be fine.
I have been informed by our fantastic team member and co-caster Trouble. It's just GK, not Geekay. We've been mispronouncing it. So yeah, there you go. It's actually easier this way. So just GK. It's all G for GK. And yeah, thank you very much for Trouble for enlightening us with that. It's always a fun one when we come. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was also going to say, this is the problem with, I watch all my VODs muted. So yeah. This is also the problem where I'm like, if I hear someone else casting, I'm like, I can't get my own thoughts together. So
yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I think it's the fun thing about like covering all these leagues as well, because sometimes like you think you found it and then you hear the caster say it a completely different way and your brain just, it's like people with my name, they look at it and they go, what is that? I'm not quite sure, but yeah, it's just the way it is, you know. We try our best.
Did you finally decide on your Starbucks name yet, or is it still just going to shit?
Well, I just say James. Like I just whenever I'm asked to give a name, I mean, I went to America and we went to a restaurant that shall not be named because they are not sponsoring the event. But they asked me for my name for the reservation, and I literally just went, James. And they just looked at me, and then I forgot that I had given them that my name was James. And they were like, James for table whatever, and I was just sitting there going, damn, this guy James just being real a-hole right now, just not standing up. Did he leave? Did he not tell them? Unbelievable. And eventually I copped on. Like,
well, James, Lost Heretics are looking giant peachy right here because they are trying to invade here, but they do need the help because here comes Malphite.
Yeah, we're going to see a late flash after the ult kind of comes out. Oh, that's just not a great combination of ultimates coming out here from GK. Kind of not really fully committing. I could see what they wanted to try and do. They wanted to get 4 people kind of fully collapsed in before they really committed everything, but it just kind of felt a little bit disconnected.
I will say, though, if the 2 ults gone now for the ult of Zwyroo, you're also going to have Lissandra ult up a little bit faster. There is a world now where Lost Heretics are able to move this over towards the Rift Herald. Level 6 just hit for bluerzor. Just try and utilize all the resources they have. The only thing is, I'm watching Flakked on the minimap. Was considering moving in towards mid to lean in towards that top side, but he's going to move back to bot.
Move back himself all the way down. Is going to be the Rift Herald started, and you'd imagine secured here for the side of Lost Heretics. 20 CS lead in that top side. You can see that's kind of the only real advantage they have for the moment. Little tricklings of advantages here. This is great for GK. They could maybe go for a dive here. You don't have the ult available to Viking. That's the only real big problem, but that's 2 plates potentially here. And oh, great hook. Going to be forcing the flash out of Marlon. And immediately sidesteps the Super Mega Death Rocket. I feel like that wouldn't have been enough to kill him, but definitely enough to kind of push him up further back from this turret.
And that's all you really need here. It gives the opportunity for Rin to get more plates for himself, then back away. You've got your entire bot side there for Viking, so he's going to be in an okay spot. As Satorius clears out the wave to make things difficult for Ibo. But all right, now again, you've got a lot of control here for GK. It's just a big question mark of, well, can bluerzor do very much to try and turn this around? Did he forget to pick up the Rift Herald? Or am I...
Oh, yeah, where is it? Hang on, I'll ask the observers. If you can, so kind, tell us what happened with the Rift Herald after this. But oh my God, he's stealing with a Vision of Empires. It's going to be a Vision of Empires steal. No way!
No.
1 HP! 1 HP! Oh man, that feels awful. Thank you so much, observers.
Oh God. Oh no, that's horrible. Well, the Swain is paying dividends right now. Dekap now once more moving in towards the mid lane, just trying to help him push out. But I mean, everything for Lost Heretics is not going the direction that they want. As again, it looks like at least with Dragon in a minute's time, a lot of control over bot side here for GK. Can start to get vision control. I like that they're working with this 3-man unit of Viking, Giyuu, and the Dekap to actually move in and try and get some vision down, maybe look for a pick before it starts. I think though you do need to start getting the resets probably in here for Rin and also for Viking, just so they can actually get their first items or most of their items, because I think they're sitting on a good bit of gold.
Oh, nice flash hook into the knockup. This Thresh is almost certainly going to die. We'll get his box down. A nice kickback there onto Viking, who does drop down the Cataclysm to maybe let Rin get a little bit of damage, but you can see he's very aware that he doesn't want to be going too far forward. Oh, if that piercing arrow had landed, it could have been huge. We'll see Zwyroo get his Glacial Path, but it's a 1-for-1 in that bot side trade.
Yeah, that's a big mistake though, because that's what I was kind of talking about. It was like Viking was sitting on about 1,200 gold there, so he doesn't get to spend his gold. Now he's going to be coming back out of the map, but there was a timing window where you could just reset and actually play for the fight. Satorius' ultimate should be up in just a moment's time as well if he can try and get down, but I think with the pressure that Ibo has in his top side, you're going to have to trade essentially a lot of damage on this top end turret if you want to try and go for the second dragon now.
Yeah, you're gonna have to try and really figure out where you want to try and put that pressure, and what's valuable to you is that next dragon is. I will say that the Ocean Dragon and the Chemtech Dragon now off the board for the Rift, so this might be something they may be thinking, look, we got a pretty high chance, 66% chance of either a Mountain or a Infernal, which is definitely worth it no matter what you do, and it's exactly what they're kind of looking for right now. We'll say, because of that, we are going to have ourselves a Cloud. Ooh, not the greatest, but not the worst either. It's still plenty, especially with a Swain, actually. If you get that ultimate off, it can be huge.
Well, keep my eyes on bot, though. Lee's in here again.
Yeah, looking for him. They get the knock up into the traps. He goes in, but he's taking a lot of damage. There's the ultimate coming out from the Jinx again. A lot of pressure coming out from this bot side here, but again, it does feel like it's Geekay kind of coming out trumps a lot of the times. bluerzor just a little bit separated. Flakked and Marlon weren't really in a position to try and follow up. You don't have the kick to try and, make some sort of quick play, so easy for Dekap to turn around. It's a punch up, hook immediately into the traps, and bluerzor barely able to escape, but we just need to see bluerzor slow it down a little bit, make sure that he's working with his team and kind of waiting for this ultimate to come up before he tries to make these big plays. First items now being completed by a couple of the more bigger benefactors of the gold that's been kind of separated. You see the Riftmaker being completed here for Ibo. Gale Force coming out here for Rin, and I actually quite like this as well. There's not really many big tanky members, and I like the extra, kind of added little bit of movement speed or movement ability that you get to kind of keep yourself alive. And of course, we're going to see the Malphite and the Swain picking up themselves an Abyssal Mask and a Rylast Crystal Scepter respectfully.
Yeah, especially with Rin not having something like the Thresh or Tan Kench or... Oh, hang on, actually, upside?
Yeah, this could be a flash away by the Swain. Yeah, he's still getting pushed underneath, but they don't land the Q, and now Ibo might be in a little bit of trouble. They're going to have 3 people here. They do get the Lissandra ult down, but he's forced to flash. They invest a lot, but they do get their man.
Just about. Zwyroo had to flash away from that turret. The response, though, from Viking trying to move in towards the mid lane with Satorius. The lane swap not really coming out tops for them in that situation, but it does mean that Satorius is in a position to move down here with the ultimate. Will be spotted on the ward. You just got to run Heretics, and they know it.
Yeah, they know they have no right to be standing underneath this. And this is more gold going on to Rin. I will say, gotta be very careful here as Flakked. He just feel confident to move up and try and take away this wave, or at least secure a little bit more of it. That is going to be just about all the plates there going over to Ibo. So he is a very happy to have 2,500 gold ahead. He is huge. Yeah, he's massive.
It's also like the kill, the CS numbers, and obviously having all those plates and the turret gold as well. Like, the Riftmaker already in pockets, immediately going to be able to move up towards something like the Shadow Flame as well here. Actually just going to go for the Banshee's Veil, make sure that he's in an okay spot, but still it's going to give a lot of control to Ibo in these side lanes, make it difficult for Satorius to really try and join into any of these fights, because if you actually leave the side lane to Ibo, he will quickly tear through these structures, and he's one of the people that is going to be relatively okay to frontline in these fights because of the Shroud. A lot of that wayward damage, or a lot of the damage that's going to come from Rin, won't be able to follow up as easily as I think Geekay would like it to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an issue that they need to deal with either sooner or later. I will say, with the dragon stacking, they may be able to kind of get themselves a favorable fight. Ibo just going to be able to try and maybe protect that pink ward, but unfortunately for him, they knew that there was the rest of Geekay kind of moving themselves up onto this Rift Herald. So now we might have ourselves our first 5v5, but very late rotation coming out from Marlon and Flakked means it's almost impossible for bluerzor to really kind of contest this and move in without being, maybe caught out right now. There's a hook. They're going to jump in on everybody, and they just pick him off. Zwyroo gets himself right in the mix of things, puts down a Ring of Frost, and they put Ibo into the Cataclysm, but he gets himself a kill. They seal away the Rift Herald, and it's going to be those Heretics trying to take back this fight. They will kill off the Lissandra. Ooh, that stasis was massive, and a flash away as well. The Gale Force aggressively does not catch out Marlon, and now Dekap is on the wrong side of the map. Big shift in momentum there for Los Heretics.
Oh, the flash forward, but Blitz won't be able to get the kill.
He ignites!
No.
He ignites! Oh, he's a Giga Chad! Dekap gets his man and gets himself a kill before dying. Nicely done, but the ace still comes in.
The support of combat will be won by Marlon, but everything else is going to be won by by Los Heretics. This fight should not have gone the way it went with the way it started, right? Immediate pick off of bluerzor, but fantastic engage coming through from Zwyroo. And again, just as we talked about Ibo being able to play on the edge of these fights as the Shroud to keep himself at arm's reach of a lot of the damage from Rin. And he's tearing through people alongside Flakked, who was in a phenomenal spot to actually work his way through these fights. So great job from the top and the AD carry of Heretics.
Rin just kind of putting himself into a weird position with that Gale Force in. I feel like he just thought maybe he would have gotten in a position close enough to kill off Marlon, and then maybe with the get excited. There's a lot of if, buts, and maybes that come into that, but sadly for the side of GK, it wasn't to be. Now we come back in 2 seconds to this dragon spawns. You are going to have a lot more ultimates available this time around. Remember that Satorius and Viking use the Cataclysm, or excuse me, they use most of the kind of big ultimates to try and get on top of the Lee Sin. Wasn't exactly the smartest idea when you have got a Gwen that can fully go on top of your AD carry, and of course just shred through people, but they're not there in time. They will lose out on that dragon, and this time around, surely we'll get ourselves to do what Shelly could not and bonk the turret.
I mean, Ibo playing very aggressive here, though. He is massive. 2 items already completed. The blasting one on toe as well. Like, this Gwen is an absolute menace. And when you start to fall behind on tempo now, as GK have, it was very difficult for you to actually try and keep the map in check. That's why they're kind of forgoing the mid lane tier 2. They're like, look, we want to try and get a turret for ourselves in top side, see if we can answer for some of this pressure, because on the back foot, everything that Heretics have in their composition just works a lot better, playing out those side lanes, trying to spread out the map, and making sure that GK don't get an opportunity to play for these big team fights.
Come back in, it's 3,500 gold. I mean, the gold lead is in the Gwen. If Ibo is not in the part of the fight, then GK have an opportunity to kind of go for it. If they can kill off the Gwen, then that's even better. You get an extra bit of gold back into you, and you've taken away the biggest threat right now. But it is very much a big if right now, because Ibo is just so hard to deal with. The fact that he went for that Banshee's second, which you talked about, makes it so difficult to really try and catch him out.
And you don't really have damage on the opposite side either to really burst them out, right? You've got tank top, essentially a tank mid because of the Jack Show build on the Swain, a Gore Drinker on a Jarvan, Nice, cool. Like, damage-wise, you're all in on Rin, as we kind of talked about already, but with the Shroud, with the ability to Ibo to actually put it to the pressure down, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you got an Abyssal Mask, but can you get out, Satorius? I think he should be fine. They have got bluerzor coming in, so maybe a flash kick to put him in. Doesn't even need the flash. You just get him right underneath his turret, and that is a very easy pick-off, and this is where Los Heretics can really start to put on the pressure when you've not got anyone to kind of answer this bot lane. How do you really kind of, you know, deal with it? They have to throw a TP down.
Yeah, it's just a good read, and now they're going to try and pick off more. The fact that you had Swain in the top side meant that they just didn't have the numbers to cover Heretics. So Zwyroo moves over for that full team play, and now Heretics are going to start moving in onto this bottom side jungle, set up their vision control for the dragon in 3 minutes time, and making sure they can continue to pick those up. Just really nice read on the map from Heretics.
That's the thing, we talked about the Blitzcrank a little bit, obviously, in the pick and ban, and yes, one hook can change a lot, but it does feel like there's just so many damage threats right now on the side of Los Heretics that even if you, hypothetically, you catch out Flakked, he's not able to get the Lantern out, and he does die. You still have to deal with Ibo, who's got himself that Banshees, and then, you know, the hook's not going to do a lot there. And even then, do you want to bring in Ibo to try and bring it, you know, take him down as quick as you can? Because I don't think you're going to be able to do it. So lots of if, buts, and maybes to kind of contemplate here for GK. So they need to try and just calm themselves down, bring us in, because this gold lead's only getting bigger and bigger. It was 3.5, it's now 5.
Yeah, and I don't really know how you're supposed to hold on to this as GK, right? You're already looking at Lissandra pushing in side lanes. The double TP is going to help them massively. Satorius just cannot deal with Ibo in a side lane right now, so you're constantly going to have the push advantage coming through for Heretics. Even in the push in mid, Flakked should be able to, I think, help kind of push in those waves and then start to lean across. in towards either the side or the top. And it's kind of now on Dekap to see, hey, look, can I group up with Viking? Maybe we can make a quick pick and burst someone out, try and slow down Heretics, because if they just keep this tempo advantage, there's very little that Geekay can do.
Very, very little, and it just feels like now we're kind of dealing with one big fight for Heretics could change, not even change, but just kind of solidify the victory here. They're going to start off this Baron. They'll take it very quickly with the Guinsoo's Rage Blade of Flakked, and of course Ivo having his fair bit of damage himself as well. They put down a lot of wards, but nothing permanent. It's just little flickers of light over the top to make sure they know that it's not been taken just yet. You can see that Satorius is in the bot side taking this tower. They're taking away this Baron right here. There's going to be a flash away to kick him back. Viking goes in, but it's a little bit too little too late. Now they jump in with the Cataclysm to try and burst some people down, but Gwen is dead, and that could be huge. Can they get on top of the AD carry? Flakked has to flash away. The Jarvan has been traded back, but the Jinx is still alive. Now it's all a little bit separated there for Heretics. They're trying to just scatter to the 7 wins to make sure they can get out. There is a Lantern, but can he take it? No! Marlon says you're dead to rights. The support does not have to help you right now because you're going to be dead. And yes, you get the Baron, but that's a huge win there for Geekay.
Geekay managing to pick up a big team fight victory. Satorius held onto that TP for so long. Basically, the whole premise of this from Heretics was, let's burn the TP on the Malphite. We don't want to fully commit, but because Satorius held on so long, the bluff kind of gets called from Heretics. I'm like, right, well, now we got to look for the 50-50. Good disengage from bluerzor to make sure he can get it, but you've already used the Shroud now as Ivo, so Rin is actually able to deal with him in the front line. Flakked is forced to run away because the Swain is just straight up in his face, and then the free hitting Jinx is running absolutely amok as soon as she gets excited. Unfortunately for Flakked here, just gets pipped by the zap, so it isn't able to get in range for the Lantern, but still, Geekay, massive comeback team fight there.
Big, big moment there, and it keeps this game alive. Yes, you lost the Baron, but you now brought that up to a 3,000 gold lead or gold deficit. They're going to maybe try and go for this fight here, but they're still waiting on a couple of ultimates. They're going to have Satorius now have the Unstoppable Force just there, so can they look for it again? They're going to find bluerzor a little bit isolated here. Gets hooked up, knocked up, and he's just completely away from his team. Ivo trying to make a different play on the top side of this one here. Just maybe take out the Swain, and he will. Marlon takes that one there with a death sentence in the truest of its name. Now you're in a 4v4, but you don't have a jungler now on the side of Heretics.
No ult on Ivo as well means that a lot of the backline threat is kind of gone with that. So unless Zwyroo can try and get in on towards the Jinx, maybe they can make a play. No cleanse available, but the problem is you've got no flash available either for Lissandra, holding on to the smite, trying to see if Zwyroo can make the steal. He's done it once already in the EMEA Masters. We'll have to see if he can do it once more.
Looks like Heretics are kind of happy to back this one away. They don't really go for it just yet. Zwyroo kind of off to the side. Does have smite available to him like you mentioned. And they go for it. It's a 1200 damage smite. They know it's not just, it's a straight up 50-50. The Lee Sin is coming back as well. Satorius gets caught up a little bit, but he's taking a lot of damage. You can see Zwyroo goes golden to give himself some time. You've lost the Blitzcrank, you've lost the Malphite, and you may just lose the fight. You've still got Rin putting in decent work, but a fantastic death sentence from Marlon. Just means there's nowhere else for you to go. The TP in for the Swain's not going to be enough, and it ends up being a full clean ace after the fact and the dragon.
They waited so long to try and find the right fight, afraid to engage, but that only just gave Heretics the positioning that they needed on that dragon. And now Heretics once more take back what was rightfully theirs. A 6,000 gold lead will be added to as the towers start to fall, and all that we left is Geekay's base.
And this is just such a strange shift there as we go from saying that Geekay are in such a great position. Now look at this, they couldn't really figure out what they wanted to do.
Yeah, Rin isn't really able to get proper damage off here. You can see all the initial damage that he tries to toss out is either sent into the Shroud or into the ult of Lissandra, so you don't really get to be a carry in this, and as you rightly pointed out, fantastic hook from Marlon there, right as Rin was trying to get involved onto those low health bars. Might have been able to make something work, having that Ruinous Hurricane and those rockets, but everything was shut down immediately thanks to that hook.
As Heretics kind of reaffirm their dominance in this game, getting themselves up to about an 8,000 gold lead, just shy of it. They've got 3 items on the big carries of Ivo and, of course, on Flakked. plenty more in the back pocket of Zwyroo as well. And again, look, you've still got a 3-item Jinx. Got that Infinity Edge now alongside the Runelands Hurricane and the Gale Force. There is damage to be had. But whether or not you can put it in, that is the big question. I will say, in the next fight, you should have flashes and summoners across the board available for the side of GK. And this is where you're going to have to put your last stand. You cannot just let this one go to the wayside. You still have your base, but it feels like one last fight with the death timers getting longer and longer is going to be so difficult for you to deal with.
And the last stand is the right call. GK, if they lose this, won't be able to get themselves into that top 2 spot. So this could all come down to this final fight. Anathema's chain's completed for Viking. He's going to be trying to see if he can, I'd imagine, keep Ivo in check with that. Just try and buy space for Rin in these fights. Having the cleanse is going to be very crucial. Maybe, just maybe, GK can find that opportunity. Just trying to push mid at the moment with the resets coming through. Looks like they don't really want to split up, but that just gives the opportunity for Ivo to create pressure on side lanes, which means that GK have to fall back, have to play scared as the Baron starts to spawn. Looks like it's going to be a lot of control on this top side for Heretics.
It's a 2-item lead in top lane for Ivo. Like, he's just such a threat right now. I thought he bought another one there for a second as the items moved around, but I was just getting a little scared. But like 6,000 gold, and this is why we generally see the Gwen going into these matchups, because it just feels like when you get ahead, it's impossible to deal with. But if you can find people to catch out, one hook is all it takes, and you've lost your jungler for 40 seconds. The Baron's in 30.
Big mistake from bluerzor. Doesn't have the help of any of his team, and Dekap, we said it could all come down to a Blitzcrank hook before this, and just at maybe the most crucial time in this game, Dekap has found that hook. 15 seconds onto the Baron. GK are trying to push out every lane that they can possibly find to make sure they can actually look for Dekap. Has the flash over the wall. He would love to pick off Flakked here.
He would absolutely adore it, as they do see him though on a little sneaky ward that was kind of over there. Satorius does have his TP, and he's going to use it straight away on the Demacian standard. Now the Swain getting jumped on here by Ivo. That's a 3-level difference. They try to go in onto the Gwen, but I don't know if that's going to be the right character to go for. Now Rin has to run away, try and kite this as best you can, but the scissors are coming for you, and they will get a kill, but it's not enough. A triple for Ivo, and just when we thought there was a moment for GK, they just cannot deal with this Gwen.
The Gwen and the Lissandra immunity is too much for Rin to be able to deal with. The shots don't go off, and Heretics manage to pick up the fight, and they will pick up this game.
It was a bit back and forth. It did feel the Heretics were kind of having most of the control, but some great creative play, great creative picks from GK kept it interesting. When it came down to it though, the massive top lane diff was just going to be enough. And it's going to be Heretics taking themselves to 4-1.
Heretics going to be very, very happy with that one, especially since they are still in the running to see if they can force that tiebreaker for first place. And it started with picking up that win, and now another one later on against Istanbul Wildcats. But fantastic performance, great team fighting, and good to see Ivo being shifted off of the tank duty, flexing his muscles a little bit with the Gwen.
Showing that he can do it. I think that's the big thing. You want, especially when you're allowed that one time to get on a carry, that you didn't put this kind of performance out. It's like, yeah, do this more. I like to have fun in this game, but really, really good to see that Los Heretics were able to kind of bring this one back. And honestly, I'm not able to confirm it, but I definitely know that this puts GK in a massively big problem right now. I don't know if they can actually get us into the top 2. It's going to be at least relying on other people's results before they can really confirm it. But yeah, this is a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, and it all started off so well for GK as well, being able to pick up the kill for Rin in the bot lane, the solo bolo in the mid lane as well coming through, but it just wasn't enough. Unfortunately, when you got to those later team fights, it came down to the top lane diff. The fact that this Gwen had such a good matchup into the Malphite, Satorius couldn't really deal with this. And then every single fight we got to, Ivo was in a great position on this Gwen to deal a whole heap of damage. And Zwyroo, with these key engages on the Lissandra, setting them up beautifully.
And look, I can do some simple maths myself. I can confirm that, unfortunately, with this loss, GK cannot get themselves up to 4-1, which means they are undoubtedly out of this tournament. They will be losing here, dropping themselves out. But look, I think it's a bittersweet moment, because for your first outing in the EMEA Masters, you guys came from play-ins, did exceptionally well, and were competitive right up until the final day of your group. I think that's something to be very proud of.
I agree. I mean, I think a lot of the players on GK as well, we've already talked about, like Viking, who used to play for Dusty back in the day. I think you've got Satorius there, who's always been a very, very strong top laner. And even Rin as well, getting to make a name for himself in this tournament. But it was just unfortunate that in this one, the composition set up beautifully for Heretics to deal with a lot of what GK wanted to bring to the table and executed fantastically as well.
Look, you know, we'll see as the games go on. We might, I think, have a tiebreaker for first place. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, first and second, very much a big deal going into the quarterfinals, but it is going to be Istanbul Wildcats and, of course, Los Heretics making their way into that quarterfinals later on. But I think for Los Heretics, it did feel like they kind of knew exactly how to play their composition. Yes, they got caught out. It was very much on Dekap getting those big hooks that kind of came out, but they didn't panic. They didn't let themselves get a bit frazzled by it, and they were able to kind of constantly, like you mentioned that last team fight, just use the immunities of the Lissandra and the Gwen to just make sure that Rin on this Jinx just couldn't really find his footing.
Yeah, I mean, again, they just did such a good job of buying space and having that zone control. And I think it says a lot about how the solo laners were communicating together that, hey, look, once we can try and pair these two these two engages at the same time, it becomes really difficult for Heretics to kind of have an answer. And again, you look towards the Swain going for this Jack Show build. Yes, it makes you incredibly tanky, and we've seen some people play around with it. I just feel that in this sort of situation, I think you needed a bit more damage coming through from the mid laner. You can even see it on your screen. Just not able to provide another threat in these fights meant that it became very easy for Heretics to just target down this Jinx.
And again, yeah, like it just felt like, you know, there were great engages, they were catching people out, but it just because no one was dying, there was health bars going low, but they weren't really falling off. You never got excited, you never got the resets off, and it just didn't really come together there for GK. So unfortunately for them, they will be bowing out here at the EMEA Masters in groups. But for Los Heretics, they got another big game to come up because they're still fighting for #1 in this group. They got to play against the Istanbul Wildcats next, so that's going to be a pretty big game for them.
I'm super excited to see how this one's going to pan out. Like these two teams look absolutely fantastic when it comes to those team fights, and if we get another pop off like Ibo again here, it's going to make it very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting indeed. As we're gonna, I don't believe I can hear anything. I'm not sure if we're ready to go for a break or not.
Yeah, we're good for a break.
There is break. Thank you so much to our producer. We're going to send it to a break, and when we return, we will have the next game for picks and bans.